Hey everybody, how's it going? So welcome back to Raygate Lake and welcome to episode 16 of Reel Up My Park from scratch. And guess who thinks he's got his audio sorted? So I've ditched my old audio recording software, so hopefully this is going to be way better or way far superior. And talking of way better and far superior, my god, you guys love booster bikes. Like, I am literally overwhelmed and blown away by the success of the last episode. And if you're following this whole series, then you already know how fond of the community I am. And you guys are just proving that by every single episode just being bigger and better than the one before. So guys, thank you so much for every single one of you that's subscribed, every single one of you that's watched, every single one of you that has liked the video, shared the video, done whatever you can to share this entire project. Because thanks to you guys, this is what we've done. This is 16 episodes worth of work. So essentially 16 weeks worth of work, all because of you. So this is our UK park. It's ultra high detail in Planet Coaster. We're dealing with mid-budget, so we're talking along the lines of Drayton Manor, Thorpe Park, that kind of style of park. And this is what we've got to show for 16 episodes worth. So we've got our entrance and ticket areas that are fully fleshed out with office areas and box office that's fully kitted out as an actual shop. And then we come across to our other entrance plaza, where we've got ourselves our first signs of rides. We've got ourselves guest services. We've got some maintenance facilities and some warehouses. And again, inside all the warehouses are all completely decorated as you would expect them to be in an actual theme park. And then we've also come across to our Eurofighter over here. So this is my 100 subscriber Eurofighter called Centurion. It's my thank you to the community for 100 of you that want to hear me prattling on. And I'm looking forward to doing the next one at the next milestone, because that's going to be awesome. So then we've also got over this way, over the lake, we come to our supporting ride area. So just a couple of flat rides just to take away some of the crowd, just to munch away some of the queues and everything from other rides. Then we come to our log flume area. So this turned out, I was really pleased with this, really chuffed with how the log flume turned out. And then we came across and finished off our western area, so we just did some shops and restaurants and a couple of flat rides and everything. And then we did our this isn't a Eurofighter, this is an SLC. So we've got our SLC. This is the type of like park that would just buy an SLC because they were popular at the time, can plonk them down pretty easily without very much effort. And so this whole story behind this SLC is it's supposed to be quite unloved. It's supposed to be a bit of a monstrosity on the park, but it fits actually really quite scarily well into its footprint and onto the side of the hill and everything. So it turned out to be a bit loved more than unloved, but hey, it's cool. And then we've got our gimmicky coaster, our stand-up coaster, over in the back area here. Of course, we spent 3 episodes building our hotel, this monstrosity of a hotel, where we went a little bit too in depth with the detail. So we've got our entrance area, our entertainment plaza fully fleshed out and everything. And now it's going really, really slowly because of the frame rate. And then we've got our swimming pool area all along here, and our plaza area where you can just come and chill out. And then this is where we took it a little bit way too far. All of the hotel rooms are all kitted out. So full detailing going on. And then we moved across over here then to our family friendly area. So this is where we're dealing with more more gentle flat rides and a couple of like a kiddie coaster, a couple of other flat rides, a couple of restaurants, a couple of game stalls and everything, just to keep it nice and family friendly in this area. And then lastly, we came over here to our booster bikes. So that's the last episode that we actually were playing in, our booster bike area that you guys just absolutely loved. And I really enjoyed putting this together. Actually, it was a lot of hard work to make it as real as possible, but it's really paid off. It really does look the part. And I took the opportunity to actually play the park after the last episode as well, because I wanted to get back into the park to get a feel for it. I wanted to make sure that everything I was doing was authentic to the park that we were trying to build, and I wasn't polluting it too much with everything else. So I managed to play the park, I managed to fill it with guests, and I've watched where the guests are going and how they're interacting with everything, and it's exactly as we thought it was going to be. They all head to the coasters and they queue up all patiently and they head to some of the rides. I think The weakness is the log flume. The weak link of this is the log flume, but that's not because of the design. That's because of how it behaves in game. In the sense that the throughput of the log flume is awful in the game. The unloading and loading is always a problem, and as you can see, like even in a quiet park with a 1,500 limit, the queue is still massive. So you're kind of dealing with the limits of the game there. Whereas in real life, the actual park itself would be way more like it would have a bigger throughput. It would be way more efficient. And so as the autosave kicks in, I want to just talk about the next steps. So when I was playing the park, I started to get a feel for what's going to be coming in the later stages. So I know that there's some staff buildings and stuff that are missing, and this is all going to be coming as we are going down the line. So, and it's going to be saved for phase 3. So I'm fully aware, guys, that we have no like canteen area, staff area, etc. We have no things like cash offices, the security offices. We've got no staff parking. We've got no like secondary park maintenance. I talked about that when I was dealing with these areas down here. We need a secondary park maintenance area. So that's all going to be in phase 3, because we spent 3 episodes doing the hotel up here and I wanted to get more done in the park. But I already know where these extra facilities are going to go. I've already got it planned out in my head, how they're going to look and everything. So that'll come later on. So for now, I'm focusing on this area here. Sort of as we've been building, we've been backing ourselves into a bit of a corner. So we're over here at the moment where the path leads to nowhere, and it will be rapids eventually. We're over here, and there's sort of like the path just doesn't really go anywhere. So this episode, I'd like to finish off the lake, get all of that done. I'd like to join up the railway so it's one circle and we can actually get that open and operating, because at the moment it's just there as a facsimile of something, like a model of something. It's not actually in use. So I'd like to bring that into use. And then I'd also like to deal with the back area here, where we're going to be dealing with what will be the headline of the park, the headline attraction of the park, the newest one that they're going to do. So we need to start prepping the groundwork for all of this. And I want this to be a bit of a hill. And I want to take the lead on this one from Hershey Park and how they deal with that. And I also want to recycle some of the ideas that I had down here for the Tudor street style. Obviously, it didn't happen down here, so I'd like to put that up here instead. So that's pretty much going to be this episode. Like, there's bits that are missing. Things like we need a fast track or an information kiosk down here. We need toilets that service these 2 areas. We just need to like tie up a few loose ends and to start to make some kind of progress towards the future so that we can carry on the series. So I don't really know how this episode's going to turn out as I'm talking right now. Because I film these in succession as I build. I don't do it, save it, save it, and then film everything in one go. So right now I have no idea. So I reckon now is probably a good time to just find out, right? So let's give it a go. How did it turn out? Here's update number 1. Well, this is how the first update's looking then. Quite a lot of change, and we have officially expanded outside of the original borders, so we've now got plenty of space to play with in the future. So I'm going to go through all of this. The main bulk of the work then has been around this lake area, expanding the lake back up towards the booster bikes, just to make sure that this area is starting to make sense. And also the hill area, where I've deliberately wanted it to take 2 pathways up the hill, and I wanted to have sort of 1 steps and 1 ramp, a little bit like it does at Hershey Park actually. So I'm going to talk you through that in a moment. And I've also just started to think about the facilities in this area as well. So we didn't have any toilets, as we know, servicing this area. We didn't have any kind of information or fast track kiosk, so I've fixed that. For now, I've just copied across the toilets that are over by the SLC just for sizing. So I'm going to make this fit the area and everything. I'm going to get rid of all of the outside and whatever and make this actually fit. Altered the path, so you can see the original path was coming down this way, and I've now just brought it around here. And then this is going to be our fast track unit. I decided as well that I did want to have some kind of food unit that's on the actual lakeside, and then have another pier that's along here that you can sit down. And then I've also started the process of putting in the ramp going into the water for maintenance. So this is obviously going to get its official fencing and finish off the pathway and everything. So I just started the wharf part of it just to make sure that this is okay. And obviously the lake still needs its liner adding and all sorts, so there's still loads and loads and loads of stuff to do. I've added a bridge as well across this way, because this whole loop felt like it didn't really make sense now that we had put the lake in here. So originally there was going to be rides and stuff here and it would have made sense, but Instead, I've decided that there's going to be a bridge here, and that then also gives us quite nice access to whatever is going to be here. And I don't know what's going to be here yet. I haven't actually decided what's going in this space. Like we know already, we're developing the park organically as we go along. I do, however, know what's going up at the top here. I've already jumped ahead maybe 2 or 3 episodes just to get a feel for how the area would look with certain things. And I've obviously deleted some things but kept some placeholders and whatever in. And I've decided I think I want the rapids to move. So whereas the rapids were originally going to come up here, I think they're now going to come down here instead. But you can see there's some placeholders for some very interesting things that are going to come in the future. So I'm glad I've done this bit because this has opened up so much more development opportunities. And we've also already said that we don't really have many thrill rides in the park, so I decided to fix that. We've now got the 3. We've got the Troika, we've got the drop tower, and we've also got the screaming swing that we're putting in. And you can now see the railway is connected. It now actually goes round in a full circle. It's open and guests can now ride it. So hooray! And I have started to lay out where I want queues and pathways and everything to go. And I wanted... I toyed with this little pocket of land here because I wanted the screaming swing from a guest sightline to be dead on straight on at you as you're walking past. So I didn't really want it. I wanted it to dominate that view because you've got this unsightly maintenance shed on the one side, so you need to be distracted by something, and that felt like it was right. But then by putting that there, I didn't really have much else room to put the railway track. So I decided that actually when I looked at existing parks, they have areas where the park is allowed to breathe. And so what we've got here, especially when it comes to this family area, into this area, and then into the booster bikes, is a very busy, constant onslaught of stuff, and it's almost a bit stifling. Like it's just this massive concrete pad, it's this massive everything. And so I've decided that actually this part of the park, especially by the lake, needs some space to breathe. So I've added some space up here so that we can put some nature and trees and stuff. I've put enough gap here so that it's still a grassland. And I've also left quite a lot of space here so that it's not so intense against the path and the lake itself. It just gives that sort of natural barrier. And then this is the same. So next to the railway and the screaming swing, there'll be like flowers, and this will be a bit more grown up and shrubbery and everything. So that's sort of my intention there. And then we come across to the actual hill, and this took forever. So yeah, you can see though that it goes up the left hand side up the stairs and the right hand side up the ramp, and this whole time I've had to think of accessibility because this is on the side of a hill and you're using steps, so you're going to have a batch of disabled guests as well that need to have some kind of access to everything. So a wheelchair needs to be able to access every level of this hill, which is why they all connect to the right hand side, and then you've got the steps that go up on the left hand side. So of course it needs all of its detailing, it needs its fine touches and stuff, so of course this is not finished. But I wanted this idea of having like leveled plazas, and I loved the idea from Hershey Park, and this is where this is essentially stolen from. It's the whole Hershey Park thing. So what I've got here as the autosave is kicking in, and the sound's going to go weird from the game. So what I wanted to do here is to have this idea of restaurants and everything that's going along the way. So we've got like this top area restaurant that would be a bit of a viewpoint, and then we've got the gift shop sitting at the top because we haven't got a gift shop that's going to be serving this area. Then we've just got loads of like little grab and go stalls along this way, and there would be like tiny little shops, you know, a little bit twee, a bit sort of I don't even know how to describe it. So like they wouldn't be massive units like we've got at the front of the park that's going to be servicing thousands and thousands of guests. This is going to be very much grab something on your way through. So it's going to be like these little shops, a lot of character to them rather than a lot of space to them. But what it does also mean is that this area around here is now reserved for something that I've got planned. I'm not going to reveal it just yet. You can probably guess like, you probably already know what my thought process behind all of this is, but there's going to be something here, not the rapids. And then at the top, I've just put the troika. So I wanted to have a thrill ride at the top. I wanted to have this idea that you can sort of get up here, and it's all like there's a thrill ride at the top, and then there's going to be something behind it as well that then makes all of this top bit make sense. So again, you'll see that in the next couple of episodes as that's coming along. And so what I wanted to do is have these central reservations that are sort of like kitted out with flowers and trees, and again, it's this idea of making this part of the park breathe. It's supposed to be a bit more of a chilled out walk between multiple areas rather than an intense bit of ride area that we've got elsewhere, where we've got loads of coasters packed together and loads of flat rides packed together, and it's all an onslaught of stuff. The idea of this area is it's supposed to be a bit looser and a bit freer, and it's supposed to breathe, and so that's why the railway comes behind the hill, so that from the guest sight line, it's actually behind all of the shops and it's not so intrusive to the area. So if you have a look, now that the autosave's done, so you can still hear it, obviously, because it's still in game, but you can't actually see it. And that's done deliberately. I wanted to bring it beside the hill. But then that presented some engineering challenges, because it's so close to the queue line of the booster bikes that I needed to put a retaining wall in along here. And actually, I've wanted to put one of these in ever since I went to Gardaland and I rode their train. And some of the things that you actually see when you ride rides and you stop, take a look around and think, can I start to replicate any of this in Planet Coaster? That's exactly what I did on their train. And they've got a couple of places actually that are just retaining walls. You're just going through this area of just two walls either side of you, and you're like, well, what's the point? So I wanted to replicate that here, and I'm going to go through when I kit this out with all of its safety stuff. I'm going to talk about why retaining walls and why certain fences and stuff are used here. And yeah, this area I've cleared. It's not going to be a breathe area. You'll see. That's all I'll say is you'll see. So let me just quickly, by the way, show you how I've actually done these, because it took so long to do. Like I say, it needs tidying up, but it took so long to do, and I know I'm going to get questions about how I've managed to do this hill. So look, let me just come out of, there we go, bring back the UI. So the first thing I did was I put the path down where I wanted it to be. So place the path like this. And then I took the stairs, and I knew how high I wanted the stairs to be, and I knew what angle the stairs were to be, and they were to be no more than 16 risers, etc. So we know that already. We've been using that principle in the park. So what I did was I placed the stairs roughly where I wanted it to be, and I then actually took the terrain tool and I raised it to roughly about the top of the that's probably a bit too high actually, roughly to about the top of the stairs, and then leveled the terrain out, and then I placed a smaller plaza area. So again, knowing that I wanted it to be a specific height, and I know like this had to be a ramp, so it can't be as steep as the stairs are. So making sure that your flattened terrain is on, I put like a smaller like plaza area here. Let's just, for argument's sake, say this bit. And then with the flattened terrain on, you then have the ability, this is really crude way of doing it, by the way, like you need to take way more care than I'm doing as a demo. But with the holding down the Z key and then flatten terrain on, you can see that the game is already trying to connect the path for you. So it's already going, yeah, okay, I'm going to create this auto slope. And there you go. So it creates that. And then the other side is exactly the same principle, but you just have a much shallower slope. So now what you've got is a shorter distance, steeper slope, and a shallower distance, and a longer distance, shallower slope. And then all I did was then just repeated the process up the hill. So I then go, right, my next batch of stairs is going to go roughly there. And then I take the terrain, bring it out, raise it to about the top of the stairs, place my path, and connect it. So it's as simple as that. When I show it as a demonstration, but actually achieving this was a bit of a nightmare, because sometimes, and it still is kind of the case, sometimes the slope for the wheelchair access was actually a little bit too steep. But this is kind of, I've checked over the angles. This is, oh, hello. This is kind of just about okay. It's just like, it's borderline. You would probably want to make it shallower, but it's just about borderline. So anyway, that's enough of me talking, because I need to get on, basically. So let's see actually how this develops, shall we? Let's go ahead and cut to the next one. Alright, so the main focus of this update then has all been around this area here, you know, where we've added the fast track unit and the toilets and the new restaurant area and stuff. So I'm going to show you around this area in a moment, but I just wanted to also show you the other stuff that I've done as well. So starting off down at the lake, I've just continued along the liner just to make it it's completely apparent that this is a fake lake, so I've just brought all of this around, and then I've also just added in the low end fencing as well, so you know, this fencing that stops people from going over into the lake but makes it safe for them to do so if they want to, that kind of principle. But I'm kind of in that position that I was in with the booster bikes, where I don't really know how else to decorate this, because I don't know what's coming behind it to know how much of a sightline you need or how much of it you want to be hidden or anything like that. So I've just done the basics along here for now. So I've just put the gravel down underneath the railway lines, I've put the markings on the crossing, I've put the fence down the one side, started the curbing, but it's kind of stopped because I wasn't convinced that this was exactly how the path wanted to be. And then the obvious bit, the bridge. So the bridge isn't really going to change, is it? So I've just sort of like done all of the detailing on the bridge that I needed to do, before then coming over to this side, and this bit will be done as part of the last bit where we do all of the decoration. And then over at the top of the hill, I've started on the troika, and I've started this idea of putting the fencing down for the queue lines, ready for it to have its concrete padding and everything put down. And so I've just gone around and I've just lined the outside of the queue, as I always do. This is nothing new to you. Ready for it to have the concrete coloured in, and then the plant life and everything that's put into the outside. And then all I'll do is, as I'm starting to move up the hill to build the rest of the hill, I'll finish this off as part of the detailing phase. And then coming across to the railway line as well, it's similar principle really. So I've put all of the fencing around the outside of the railway line. It's now got its gravel underneath. And then along this area here, you'll see that I've used different fencing. And I know in the last update I was talking about why that may be. So obviously, with this being a bit of a sheer drop, retaining wall, if a guest were to get behind, even when this is all filled out with this vegetation and everything, if a guest were to get behind, you wouldn't want them to fall off this wall, right? Especially onto the railway line. So you put the don't die fencing along the top, but you'll notice that I've also added it along the side and along the bottom here as well. And the reason for that is that this area here would be a prone landslip area. So if it were to rain suddenly and there to be a landslip and the ride still be in operation, you would want to make the ride as safe as possible in the event of a landslip, so that it doesn't cause too much of a disaster. So you'd have sensors and everything that would be along this hill, and it would be automating the e-stop for the ride itself. So you know, if anything did happen, it could just stop the ride. That inspection can also be done by eye as well. So the drivers and passing staff and everything would also be able to do that. But you would use tougher, higher fencing in this instance to catch any debris that may have slipped down, so that you stand a chance at least of stopping the ride safely and preventing injury where you can. So and I haven't done it around this side just yet because of what's being developed, so I need to know how that's actually going to lay first before I can then continue the decision to move the don't die fencing around, or whether I do a second line of defence or what. I just don't know yet. So let's see how that develops in other episodes. But over to the bit then that I've been working on the most. So this is where the biggest change has happened. And I wanted this area to have like this modern wood effect. So I know we're using it on a lot of the internal buildings, and I know we're using it elsewhere inside of buildings, but I actually wanted to use it on the outside. And I rejected the idea of using the modern wood for the log flume because I wanted more control over how the actual building and everything looked. So I went down the idea of using beams as walls. But for this is actually perfectly fine. It gives the effect, the exact effect that I wanted it to. So this idea that these are sort of wooden shacks that have just been put together. They're sitting on concrete pads of varying different concrete styles. And I started off actually with the fast pass unit. I just wanted it to be a really simple unit. It still needs a bit of fine detailing, TMTK sort of style detailing and windows and stuff. But I think it just looks alright. It just does what it needs to do. It sells fast track, it sells or gives out park maps, it gives information, etc. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be ridiculously detailed. What I have done though is on the inside, it's a bit of an office space, so it's probably a bit overkill for an office space of this type of building, but and the window overlooks onto the fence of the maintenance building for the boosted bikes. Hey, great office this is. But the idea of this office is it would probably store all the park maps, it would store the stuff you need for fast track, it's got like information points and stuff, you know, and there's just a couple of computers as well. This could also be one of those ride hubs, you know, where staff are being trained and they might come here to log their staff hours or to actually complete training, etc. And like I say, it still needs a little bit of detailing done to it, and that's going to be done in the final phase when we do the rest of the foliage and everything. But it's also continuing this theme of the curbing that we've got, and then colouring in with different textures of flooring. So these are just the vintage flat roof brickwork, and then again hiding the misdemeanor by putting the mulch in along the curb and just colouring in, raising the track and ignoring the gutter that I've just the rogue bit of gutter that I've got. And then around here, as you already know, I've changed the layout of the path. So the path originally had come round this way, but I've actually just tidied this up and corrected this, so it's now come round this way. And likewise over here, I've just put all of the low fencing that goes into the lake. And because you were going to have vegetation and everything here, and you've got the rock work, you wouldn't necessarily need too high a fencing, because if somebody's going to jump into the water, they're not going to jump into the water here. They're going to come onto the actual pier and jump from there, right? So it's like you don't really need to do too much here. This isn't too much of a threat. And then here is the same, like you'd put vegetation and everything in here, and that would be a perfect natural barrier to stop people from coming in. But you do need the wharf just to make sure that you can still get in and service this part of the lake. So this bit needs to be finished. Obviously this bit's still open and stuff, so just need to fix that. But that's going to come when I come to do all of the terrain and everything underneath the lake and finish the pond liner and everything along this way. So that would be coming. So anyway, the next thing that I did are the toilets. So I sort of wanted the idea of the toilets to look the same as all of the other toilets in the... Oh, hello. Another bit that needs tidying up. All of the rest of the toilets that are out in the world of our park. So same colour schemes as before. Doesn't look like it, does it? They look like the same colour, but then they are different colours, I promise. Green and yellow. And just inside, we've just got the idea of the sinks, and we've got the idea of the actual functioning toilets and the hand dryers and everything. So it's just a toilet, right? It's no real difference to anything else. Again, just needs its touch-up work doing to it. Like I say, there's a snagging list that I've got, but it was this outside I was working on the most, so making sure that the actual shape of the building and everything was as I wanted it to be. And this is now suitably the same as the fast pass unit, so I quite like how these are now very consistent with their look and feel. And once it's got its vegetation and everything up, I think it's going to look really good. And then coming over to the restaurant area itself then, so Chirps, it's just a nice fries unit. There's nothing really particularly special to it. It's a grab and go unit. There's no inside seating. It's literally come in, grab your food and get out. And I wanted it to feel a bit more modern. I wanted it to feel a bit more open. So this would be glass, but we don't have... I can't even find any on TMTK, any glass that would suitably fit in this area. So this is unfortunately just open, but let's just pretend it's glass, right? Let's just squint and pretend. And so yeah, I was going down this again, the modern wood route, but then inside going down that more modernly feel, where you've got the stone cladding along the side here, and then the wood cladding, and then you've just got another like panel across here, and then just the name of the shop and whatever in neon just across the top. So it's that idea of modern interior. Still got a snagging list to do in here as well. There's still some stuff that's not quite perfect, but I'll come on to fix later on as part of the finer detailing phase. But the whole idea was to get this bit done. And then the next bit that I've just sort of almost got my head around is the queue line for the screaming swing, and also the queue line for the drop tower as well. So I decided that this was going to be another concrete pad, but because of the way that the Victorian vintage set brickwork works, I needed to continue the brickwork into the ride area and find a strategy for how I'm going to then hide the brickwork in amongst the queues. So this is going to be concrete pad that I use for the rest of the queues, and also the vintage stuff as well. So that's kind of where we're sitting at the moment. The autosave's kicked in, so this is now going to take a while. So with that in mind, I'm just going to carry on, and I will see you for the next update. Alright, so we're starting to enter that final stage then, and this is the point where we start to bring in the bins and the benches and the flowers and the hedges and everything to start to bring it to life. And look, the hill is really starting to come together quite nicely. This Tudor architecture looks awesome, and I mean, it's like our heritage, right? We love our Tudor architecture. And I'm starting to come to that dawning realization as well that I'm not going to get everything done this episode, and that's okay actually, because this restaurant at the top was always going to be part of what's coming next. So I kind of figured that actually it would make sense to leave this restaurant out, because when I start to build this, it's going to give away what's coming here. So I thought, actually, let's leave the restaurant out for now, and let's just focus on doing the best we can with what we've built, rather than trying to fudge through a restaurant and making it fit for purpose. So nothing's changed down the bottom. It's all ready for its final detailing phase. That's all going to be part of the next phase that we're going to do. But look, awesome view. I'm really pleased with how this view on the hill is starting to come together, and this Tudor architecture is looking awesome. Obviously this still needs its final detailing phase, so I still need to go through it, and there's snagging lists and all sorts going on, but this is where we're at the moment. So we've got a few things. We've got an ice cream parlor, we've got a sweet shop, we've got a churro shack that was just been thrown up, and then we've also got the gift shop at the top as well. So starting down at the ice cream parlor, it's this modern interior again. So I found a design company on Google that does ice cream parlor interiors, and they gave me some awesome ideas for this. So I wanted to keep with the Cosmic Cow branding, so that's that pink and the blue. But this other company as well have very similar branding, and they introduced brown, and actually it turns out that the brown offsets the colours really, really nicely. We're using black quite a lot everywhere, particularly in this area. It's all stucco white and black beams, right? So we kind of need a bit of variation. I wanted to use the paneling that we had over in the hotel, just because it brings it into the park, and then it's that consistent across the resort kind of feeling with the materials and everything. So the brown really sort of accents it, and surprisingly so as well. I quite surprised with how it came out. But this interior, yeah, I really like it. Like I say, it needs its detailing. You've got the breakfast bar area at the bottom here, just in case you want to chill out and have your ice cream, or you can use the in-game seats. And then obviously we've made this usable in-game by using the actual stools itself, and then you can go back into the kitchen this way. And then out the front, I have just started the process of segregating an area that I'm going to have for some seating where you can come and chill out on the side of the hill. Decided that this area here isn't actually going to be a shop after all, because there's quite a lot that we've got going on here in the restaurant at the top, and I don't think this area is actually going to be busy enough to warrant having this kind of number of places. So I've actually decided that this is going to be another seating area, and so I've just started to fence off fence off where I want this seating area to be. And then the stonework I've stolen directly from Alton Towers. I absolutely love the idea of making your stonework across the path edge, and hiding the actual path edge itself rather than using a curb. So I've sort of started this down at the railway, and I've brought it up the hill, and then it ends in a pile of stones, and then it ends up with the curbing as well. So I've put the other curbing in along this way. So we're dealing with two sizes of curbs, because these are the firehouse windowsills. So I've done the best that you can when you're dealing with a hill of this nature. But actually, it's turned out all right. It's going to look fine once all the flowers and everything are in. And then we come up to the sweet shop. So the sweet shop, I kind of fell in love with the design because I wanted it to be garish. So the idea of this is you're supposed to be able to walk in through the main door and just be hit with this smell of sugar. You know, like, oh, that sickly smell. So I wanted it to be appealing to kids. That's why we've got this real garish colour scheme. And I started to decorate in here. And obviously this needs its final detailing. It's very bare at the moment, but it's just like giving you an idea of how this is going to actually look. And I stole this idea pretty much from the M&M shop in London. They've got obviously the wall full of M&Ms, and you just go along and you choose your colour and everything. And I really liked that idea, but I don't really know how to, or we can't really, should I say, replicate this in Planet Coaster because we just don't have the pieces, we don't have the stuff that we can do. So I'm just using these tubes just to represent sort of different colour suites that may be. And then underneath you've got where you'd have all of your bags, so you just pull it out. And I just need to add some things like, if I can find it, a scoop and some kind of mechanism to actually open the tube and everything. And then this would be your pick and mix area, so you'd come along again, you would grab yourself a bag and you just sort of do your pick and mix. And then the other bits that I want to put in here, just some trinkets. So I'm going to want to put some pedestals in here, just so that we can display different items, and then some stuff on the shelf as well. But yeah, that's the sweet shop. I quite like how twee it turned out. It's all right for a small little shop. And then our churro stand is just supposed to be thrown up there. It's just supposed to be there. It's not supposed to really have any key part. It's just almost like this area. He's off anyway. He's had enough. So yeah, this area is just supposed to be a bit busy, and it's just supposed to soak up some of the crowds. So it's just there to fill a space more than anything else. And then the actual gift shop itself. So I've taken this idea of the building from one that's actually down the road from me. It's actually a pub, believe it or not, but I've taken like this whole idea of the overhanging roof. Again, this doesn't look real, like it doesn't look realistic, but it is. This is exactly how that building's roof is. It overhangs. I even checked. I was like, that can't be, surely, but it really does. And then likewise here as well, the whole Tudor architecture stuff just sort of overhangs. And then when you come inside, it's all fully kitted out, so you've got all of your clothes and everything hanging up on this side. You've got all of your toys and everything, your posters and your stuff around, and then we've made it usable obviously in game, so that you can it's just not a building then, is it? It's actually got some kind of use to it. And then just thrown up some posters and everything on the back just to break up the wall space. But again, it's that whole black and white theming feel to it, with the wood on the walls, just to give it that more sort of modern effect. And I've seen some awesome stuff actually where you use real bright colours. So like you could use bold geometric shapes and bright colours and everything in a gift shop of this kind of style, and you juxtapose the design of the old Tudor with the new modern. But no, I just decided to go down that wood route because it felt like it fitted much better. And then nothing really changed up at the Troika. I just need to put all of the concrete and everything in just to make this work. So this I will finish this episode. It's just going to be this restaurant that will be missing. So my plan then is I need to put some rails and everything along the stairs, and I need to put the flowers and everything to make it sort of come to life. And then I need to do final detailing on all of the buildings. You know, there's loads of stuff that's missing from the buildings and everything. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's pretty much everything that I've got to show you on this one. So let's actually see how this turns out as a finished thing, shall we? Let's have a look. Alright, so it's taken way longer than I thought it was going to, but I think we're about done. Obviously, we know everything on the left-hand side here is next episode. So we can ignore anything that's not finished down on the left-hand side. But let's take a tour, because this isn't it. This isn't where it ends. It also extends down here. Look. It's nearly done. So we've actually worked on a massive area. It may not seem like this is very interesting content. You know, it's not as exciting as a booster bikes or anything like that. But actually, this stuff takes so much time. Like, it's so much quicker to build a roller coaster than it is to build a load of buildings. Like, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But this has been quite fun actually, because it's come to life really nicely. Especially as in the middle. Don't know if you may have sensed, I wasn't too sure. But actually, it's really has come to life. And again, it's that foliage thing, isn't it? It's like the phenomenon of the adding the trees brings it to life. So anyway, This is the main area that we started on. So we walk past Pandemonium, and then on the left-hand side you've just got a bit of a view of the lake, and you've got the maintenance area of the actual lake itself. And then we carry on walking, and we get to the toilet building. So I've done the tidying up that I needed to do in the toilet building, so everything is now looking clean and fresh, as it should do. So this is exactly as I wanted it now to be, and just put a few other light touches just around and about, just to make sure that everything is all capped off quite nicely. And then we come over to Chirps. Again, just some touching up that's been done. So I've put all of the picnic benches and the lampposts and all of the bins and everything, and the life ring and whatever. So this is now a nice little place, a nice little spot actually. And when we develop whatever's going to come over on this side of the lake, you're going to have a good view. So if you remember, hello, spoiler alert, if you remember back to when we were doing Eat It over there, and you sort of had a view of everything on the other side of the lake, kind of a similar thing here. I wanted there to be a slightly exclusive view from this pier, so that's what we've done. And then we come over to Chirps, looking awesome with its flowers and everything on the outside now. So I was a little bit worried that the walls were bland and blank, but actually the introduction of the trees and whatever kind of takes some of that away, because you've now got something to look at in front of the actual building itself. So I'm kind of quite happy with how this turned out. And then inside, again, I've just done the touch-up work just to make sure that it's all good. So there were some things poking out from the roof and the ceiling and whatever, so I fixed all of those, and made sure that everything is now as it should be. So this is looking good. Remember, this is a grab-and-go restaurant, so there wouldn't be any seating or anything inside. It would literally be a space that you'd walk in, grab your food, and then leave. Then I've just done the bits around here, so just making sure that it's got a backstage area so you can have some bins and whatever. I was toying with the idea of having these on show, but actually I decided to keep it on show. I went to a park recently. Well, you've heard me talking about this before, but I went to a park recently and noticed that there were still bins and stuff on show, so it kind of does have real life precedent. You do see this in real life. And in fact, there's one park I went to with the monorail goes right over the bin store. It's like, oh, okay, cheers then. So now all the flowers and foliage and everything are all done around the Screaming Swing, which we have called Deja Vu. The idea is, you've seen it all before. So the queue obviously has now got its concrete and everything all finished, so you can sort of walk around the outside here. And this is what I was talking about with the actual brick and the concrete sort of having to marry up at some point. So I've managed to make this. And I didn't talk about this before, but I took this design decision to only do half of this fence. It felt like the park would only make an effort of the bit that's visible really from the actual main path, and then behind it would just go back to the normal fencing. And the fence height is just about right. It's just about the right height. I mean, you would probably consider making it slightly half tall again, but it's no need. This is perfectly acceptable from a height perspective. So yeah, and I like actually how the view of the Screaming Swing is like there straight away through the middle of the trees. You're walking down and there's a Screaming Swing, and then whatever we put in the background will then also be there too. And then you've got the fast track unit. Nothing really changed here. Again, just the foliage and just the general tidy up of the area. We've kind of managed to successfully hide the maintenance shed, but you were never going to fully hide it without putting a massive building in. But you've also got other interesting things like the booster bikes just peeking through the back there. So it's like it's got its own advantages really. But yeah, fast passes are all done, and the office inside is all finished. So office inside is all finished. Just general tidy up, and then we come into what will be the main plaza of future episode. So shush, don't tell anyone, it's a secret. So yeah, this obviously isn't done, but the drop tower is. So power tower is now open, although nobody's actually wanting to ride it. Look, the train's working, the train's going. So sorry, I'll get really excited for no reason. Yeah, so the queue is obviously now concreted over, and it's now all nice and tidy and all as I wanted it to be. So you can just imagine that there would be blaring music and everything, but obviously we don't use music in this park, unfortunately. But you would imagine that there would be. And then we come to the star of the show. I mean, look, it's just exactly, and I say I know what's coming here already, but the view is just exactly as I wanted it. And I'm glad actually I took the decision to not put the shops in here, because it sort of cuts through with the trees and everything. So you've got a bit of a dappled viewpoint. But yeah, just look up the hill. This is exactly, hello mate, this is exactly what I wanted it to be. Stairs on one side, hill on the other, and then buildings on this side and secret on the left hand side. Oh, I should have redacted. So all the flowers and everything are all done. All of the curbing is now all in place, and I put some rails along the stairs as well. That was quite important actually, because you've got quite a number of stairs, so you do need rails. Not like the other side where we used stairs, where you've got a ramp right next to it, so you wouldn't need the rails. But here you do. So yeah, here's our little patio area looking over to the booster bikes. So this is looking good. This is why I didn't want to put the restaurant or the grab and go stuff here actually, because I wanted that view. And then we come up to the ice cream parlor. So I've just finished this off, just put the doors and everything on, just to make it an actual building as opposed to, you know, not a building. And inside I've just dappled it out with just a few more TMTK items, nothing too heavy. I was pretty happy with how this looked already, so this is alright, this is good. Seating area outside then, and I've just dappled again these around, a couple of bins and stuff, just to sort of give that outside. Didn't want to put umbrellas because it was sort of going to obstruct view and it was going to get a bit cluttered and a bit messy, so just normal seats and everything is always all you're going to get. Behave. Inside then, the sweet shop. So I struggled with sweets, really did struggle with it. So I've just ended up putting a load of TMTK stuff around just to represent, you know, these would be bottles of sweets, these would be tubes of sweets, these would be pick and mix and stuff. So you sort of like, this is going to be one of those squint and just believe moments rather than being able to kit it out, because there just isn't the stuff available. Like, we don't have pieces small enough to make the pick and mix, we don't have anything on TMTK, so what can you do, right? You just can't. So maybe if somebody is talented enough to create something that fits into the IKEA shelves, hint, hint, then I'd absolutely use them. But for now, we'll just leave it as it is. But the outside now sitting quite nicely, and I've just put some uplighters rather than downlighters, just because you can hide them quite nicely into the ground. A churro shop is still a churro shop. It just is what it is. Nothing really changed. And then the gift shop. Inside, nothing has changed. I've just done like the small details, you know, like the emergency signs and stuff. They're all in, but the actual gift shop itself. I did decide, by the way, that overhanging roof, I just didn't like it. Like, yeah, it's real. It's based on that real building, but I just didn't like it, so I've just pushed it back in. And now it actually works way better, I think, on the sightline. It looks a bit more friendly on the sightline, so secret area. And then we've got Storm, which is our troika. Again, this is all just, this needs some work obviously because of secret redacted in the background, so limited to what I can do around this area, but mostly happy with the stuff that's happening in here. So as autosave kicks in, all that's left really for me to say is thank you so much for watching. And like I said at the very top of this update, I know that this isn't as exciting as a Booster Bikes episode, it's just building a load of buildings, but this is really important to have done because it now opens up probably 5 or 6 different episodes of different things that we can build. So guys, thank you so much for your support, thank you so much for watching. I love absolutely every single one of you. If you like the video, then you know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, etc, etc. But otherwise, keep yourself safe, and I will see you for the next episode.